Okay, everyone, I am going to tell you a little bit about my formal lesson plan. I do apologize for not being there this evening, but other school obligations have kept me away. So, here we go. I did what is a detailed reading. It's part of the reading for meaning section of the strategic teaching book, and I use this for physical science, and it's kind of a introduction to our waves unit. So I constructed a detailed reading that was a good introduction to some specific, very important vocabulary for the waves unit. And as you can see, it kind of uses that comparison and contrast, literacy skills, activating background knowledge, and specifically a focus on vocabulary, especially with this science vocabulary, a conceptual kind of vocabulary. Each of these words is generally a concept. Obviously, we needed the textbook and the detailed reading worksheet that I designed. My essential questions having to do with waves. What are the parts of the wave? And specifically, the important parts of energy being transferred through waves. Here are some specific vocabulary words that were used in the detailed reading that the students were determining not necessarily the meaning of, but how they fit in conceptually to what we were going to learn. Background knowledge, anything that the students may have known about waves, energy, how we use energy to do work, those sorts of things are going to come into play in this unit of study. So any kind of that background knowledge that the kids have was definitely going to be helpful here. So for an activating strategy, I looked at an ocean wave and describing it as far as what it does. Obviously talking about if you're standing in the ocean wave hits you, you feel what do you feel? You feel the energy. Where did the energy come from? And then kind of getting into a discussion about the fact that that water is right there and not the water from wherever the wave started. So the wave carried that energy without actually bringing the specific bit of water that where it started with it. So I think that we've done this in class. So the steps for the strategy are pretty simple. The students go through, they decide whether they agree or disagree with the statements that I made up. Then they read through the text, they find data to support if it's true. If it's false, they rewrite the statement. Then there's a section for discussion with a partner, and then in the end they they have a little writing assignment to basically demonstrate what they've learned about the concepts. It's assessed by level of proof. Did you find the proof that supports the statement? If not, did you rewrite it well? Kind of as I walked around the critical nature of their argumentative discussions. Did you actually are you saying, hey, this is why I chose this? This was my support. Are you not? Those sorts of things. And here's my rubric that I used. Right, we're looking at first the correct assessment of validity. Were you right? Did you find the right answer? Was the statement true or was the statement false? Were you correct? So then you've got support. Did you provide support? Did you give inaccurate support? Did you give correct support that was not fully complete, or did you do 100% of everything you needed in order to prove that statement? And in the case that the statement was false and you need to rewrite it, did you rewrite the statement correctly? And did you rewrite the statement completely correctly? And then looking at the discussion, did you discuss it? Did you make an assertion? Did you make a claim? Did you agree on what the proper answer was? Did you discuss that evidence, which is very important to this discussion? And did you have that support? As far as the essay or story, did you write the essay? Did you include the terms that were important for what we were doing? And then did you include those concepts? Did you show that you understood the concepts? You used the terms, but did you understand those terms? Did you demonstrate that understanding of the terms? I used some higher level questions, talking about comparing the energy transfer in waves to something we had just recently finished up with heat transfer. They're very similar in as far as the vibrations of particles being what transfers that energy. And then also back with the energy from our previous unit, describing how the energy in a wave works with kinds of energies we discussed before. The differentiation for this lesson deals with students being able to choose their method as far as showing their understanding. The discussion is very helpful for kinesthetic and auditory learners. The reading and citing proof is good for intuitive learners, and the creative students having the chance to create those arguments and then being creative with the possibility of writing a story. So those are awesome. I'm going to take a look at the original that I designed. I give them, the textbook pages, give them very simple instructions, wanting them to provide proof if it's true and give an example. They're using the textbook. The textbook gives them plenty of examples. They could also be creative in their own life if they wanted to, but if they're not creative, then it's not necessary. If the statement was false, they rewrite it and give an example. So we first start off, I give them a statement, and they decide whether they agree or disagree just based on their background knowledge, and then they tell me why they agree or disagree. And then if it's true, they fill in this box with their evidence, and if it's false, they rewrite the statement. And this goes on for multiple statements, possibly too many statements. It may have been a little bit long as far as what they could get done. So there's plenty of statements there. Then once again, part two, they sit in table partners. So once they're both done, then they go into that discussion where they, they're kind of an argumentative discussion where they say, hey, this is what I found. This is why I think that. That's what you found. That's why you think that. Because multiple times for these statements, there were plenty of different pieces of evidence that they could pull out of the text. So, there were good quality discussions going on because they had different evidence and they were deciding, whose is better. Maybe they're similar, maybe they're the same, saying different things in different ways or saying the same thing in different ways. So there were some good discussions. And then here's your paragraphs talking about the energy that they find in their daily lives. And then I have one example from one specific student where they're talking about waves carrying energy. Well, she agreed with that because we talked about it in class a little bit. That was part of that activation strategy, so that was good. And then she picked out a clear piece of evidence. And then as we go along, there's this vocabulary is giving them problems. So a lot of times they're going to disagree because they don't understand a word. So like, okay, I don't understand what that word is, so I can't agree with that. And that's what happened to her in several occasions. But then she has her proof, and then she's rewritten the statement coming from the text. So she did a fine job there. And then over here, she continued to do the same thing. And then talking about energy, food and energy, this was her part of her background knowledge. Not really completing the assignment 100% by talking about waves, so she would not have been. Some of the students had difficulty completing this part of the assignment because, unfortunately, it was very lengthy. The assignment in general, as you can see with those multiple questions, this was actually a lot of work for them to get through in one class period. And now I'm going to show you a little clip of what they were doing in class. And here you have, she is working in the textbook. She's writing down what she needs, as is she. I like the way she's going back and forth between the text and her page to make sure she's filling it out appropriately. And you can see everyone's actively engaged. Everyone I'm going to come across here is actively engaged. This young lady is not often one of the greater students, but she was actively engaged. I felt like she was using the text was very quiet in the classroom. They were all doing a great job. They were, and the quietness let me know that they were actively engaged. There were no side conversations, none of the often the things that you usually find when students are a little bored with what they're doing. I think they really liked looking up that proof uh, not only did they find the statement, whether it's true or false, but then they're like, oh, well, now I'm going to back it up. Now I'm going to support that. So they're doing that extra step to show a little more demonstration that they understand what's going on. They know why. It's the why that I'm always asking them. Okay, that's the answer. That's great, but why? Once again, clearly everyone here actively engaged in part one. I'll fast forward a little bit here, see if we can catch some of these guys in some conversations. Oh, that was great. She was clearly she was going right through the text and following along with what she needed. Find some discussions. A little sideways discussion here. This is good. Nothing better than a sideways discussion. But these two ladies here were they were really talking heavily. Some of the students that don't often talk in class were having the opportunity here to have those discussions in a more safe, secure environment with their partners. Once again, everybody on task completely, 100% of the time. I tried to make sure they didn't always know when I was behind them videoing. I had the camera make noise, so they thought I turned it off, and then I kind of put it on silent and turned it back on. So they had some good discussions, and then these guys, they agreed, and then he's going to turn over here, and he's going to say, hey, this is where I saw it. It's right here. And they're like, okay, groovy. So I like that. These two guys did a great job. Overall, once again, really good experience. The kids really enjoyed it, and I feel like in compared to years previous, these students started off with a more complete understanding of these basic terms for the waves unit. They often have trouble with the waves unit, and I feel like as we progress through that unit, they had a better basic understanding as we entered the unit, and have done much better throughout that unit than they have in years past. Overall, a great experience. Once again, I need to shorten this, and maybe could come up with some prompts to kind of prompt their discussion a little bit, because if they're not really used to that argumentative discussion, then it can be tough for them to just kind of develop that discussion without really experiencing it otherwise. But overall, really good experience. Good way to incorporate multiple learning styles. It's almost as if it differentiates for itself, because you're doing so many different things. The kids don't get bored because they're doing this for a little while, then they're moving on to that discussion, and they're moving on to their writing. So they're moving from one piece to another, so they're not getting bored, and they're really getting some good information. So overall, great experience. I chose this one because I really liked it when we did it in class. It works really well with my learning style. So I enjoyed it. I was very comfortable with it because it worked well with my learning style, and because I enjoyed it so much. So it was a good time overall. And once again, I really feel like the kids started off with that basic understanding so that they could move through this waves unit, which is typically difficult for them, very well.